Hey, I'm back, and in today's video I would love to show you how to paint dark portraits. Coming up. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Ignosa Isaac and this is Blended Art Studios. In the course of this video, I will attempt to answer the following questions. Number one, how to sketch properly. Secondly, do I paint from a hard copy reference picture or from a soft copy reference picture? And thirdly, how do I paint dark portraits? Let me quickly address the first question, which is how to sketch properly. In order to sketch properly, you need to be aware of accuracy because your sketch needs to be very, very accurate. Your sketching is the foundation on which your painting is going to rest on. So a bad foundation will definitely give a poor finished product. That means that you have to take a lot of time and dedicate a little bit more effort into your sketch. Because of this, you need your sketch to be very accurate. So I recommend you use grid lines. If you are drawing from a reference picture on your phone, there is an app I use called Drawing Grid Maker. In fact, there are a ton of apps on Play Store that you can use to grid your app. But I especially like this one because it has the feature of reducing the thickness of the grids and also changing the color. So I've been using Drawing Grid Maker for the past 2 years and I've not had any need to look for a different app. The app just simply tells you to insert the number of rows and columns you want on your reference picture. In order to know that number of rows and columns, you should first of all, on your textured paper or on your canvas, you should take a steel ruler or a long ruler and then grid that surface. That means that if you are using a 2 centimeter grid, let your grid lines be drawn on the size of paper you are going to use. I recommend if you are using a much larger canvas or paper, let your grid lines be 1 inch thick. But for smaller sizes, maybe below 16 by 20 inches size of paper or canvas, let your grid lines be 2 centimeter thick. Once that is ready, you now count how many boxes horizontally and vertically are on your paper or canvas, and then you use that number on the Drawing Grid Maker app. Once your grid is complete, all you now need to do is take your faint pencil like your 6H and then sketch the outline of the drawing just the way you see them on your paper or canvas. I use the center dot method, which means that I just put a dot in the center of any box I want to sketch on, and that helps me have an imaginary diagonal lines on that box. An alternative to that would be to simply draw diagonal lines on top of your square grid, but that will make a little bit more complicated and more messy grid line to work with, and it's usually not so perfect. So I don't recommend drawing diagonal lines, but just put a dot in the center and your eye will be able to fix in diagonal lines imaginary for you. That means that in your reference picture on your phone, add diagonal lines, but on your paper you don't need to add diagonal lines. Just put a dot in the center and then trace from your phone on your paper or canvas. When I say paper, I mean paper or canvas because I use both. Just know that when you are using a paper, just make sure it's a textured paper. Second question is, do I draw from a hard copy or a soft copy? Now this is a very interesting question because I also faced this issue starting when I started. I recommend you draw from a hard copy. But the disadvantage there would be if you do not have a very good printer or laminating machine, because when you draw from a hard copy, you need to print the picture in a very large size. and then laminate it. The advantage of drawing from a hard copy reference picture is that after you've laminated it, you have the ability to do your color checking right on your picture. That means that when you mix your color and you want to be sure the color is accurate, both the value and the color being accurate, you just touch a part of the picture with your color and check if it's the same. But then you can't do that if you are drawing from your phone. The only advantage to drawing from your phone is speed and convenience, because you don't have to print anything, you don't have to laminate anything, and in 5 minutes you can prepare your reference picture and go ahead and start drawing. Finally, the last question is, how do I paint dark colors? First of all, you need to understand that you do not have to brighten a picture. If some details are hidden in the darkness, let them remain hidden. But as little as possible, any detail showing in the darkness, it may not be bright, but it may have some values to it. You should try to indicate such details. So like in this particular portrait I'm drawing, underneath the cap you can see some shades. Underneath the cap you can see some shades above the eye, but it's not so bright, it's not so obvious. Just those tiny details really help to tell the viewer what they are looking at. But don't go too far as to try to force in your reference picture to be bright, so that you can actually see those details properly. You don't have to do that. You can also observe in the picture I'm currently working on, the painting I'm working on, that around the jaw there's a little bit of highlight there that actually shows the jawline, which actually separates the jaw from the neck. That's very important. You may not have observed, but this is actually a blurry picture, so everything is blurry and everything is well blended out and looks blurry. It's not the best reference picture, but I still had to make it work. The ability to draw dark portraits is actually very special, and it brings out some beautiful artworks. I have some artworks that are also very dark, and if you check Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa, you observe that there are a lot of dark shades in it. And if you really get to study that portrait well, you'll find out that first of all, there is a wristband on her left arm. She tied something on her left arm, which is very faint, you may never see it, but if you check, it's there. So he had the ability to paint really details in low light. Okay, you see mountains in the background, you see resting a hand on an armrest that is barely visible, and a lot of details up her sleeve are barely visible. But that is what makes a masterpiece, that some shades are hidden and the eye gets to be curious and to wonder what's there. Now, depending on the lighting in which the person is situated, that is the person in your reference picture, because brightness and colors has a lot to do with lighting. Okay, so right now I'm seated here and there's blue light on my face. If you are going to paint me like this, chances are you say this blue light is unnatural and you want to ignore it. But no, you should actually paint it the way it is. Painting dark portraits is not what everybody wants to do, but there are times when you have no other choice but to do it. Cases where the photograph was taken from the light source being behind the person, that means that there's a lot of highlights on the sides of the person, but then the face is not receiving so much highlight. Maybe the kind of brightness on the face comes from a lot of reflections, and this particular painting I'm working on has those kind of details. And you may notice that there's a lot of purple in the face. In fact, this is the only painting I've done that I didn't have to mix any skin tone that looks like a real skin tone. I mixed a lot of purple, and everybody knows purple is not a real skin tone. Skin tones are usually around orange, red, dark color, dark orange. But then I had to mix a lot of purple in this particular painting because I feel the purple shirt the guy was putting on was doing a lot of the reflection that bounced on his face. Okay, as you continue to paint, you observe that the environment in which the object is situated will actually affect the colors you see in the painting. So someone standing in a green field is going to have some greenish highlights on his face. Someone wearing a blue shirt is going to have blue highlights on his face. So that's what we see in this particular portrait. But then how do you paint those dark areas? In this particular portrait, you see that it's completely black, like pitch black. Number one beginner mistake would be to try to brighten it. Try to increase the phone brightness so that you see those details that are hidden in the dark. If you do that, you will see more details and you will paint it brighter, but then you've gotten your values wrong by painting your portrait brighter than it was in the reference. I want you to actually paint it just as dark as it was in the reference. I've even observed that painting it darker than it was in the reference make the picture finer. It's true. Just try it out, you observe. So the darker you paint it, the finer it gets. So don't be tempted to make it brighter. Just go darker. If you must change anything, go darker. Here is an update on my masterpiece, the portrait I'm currently working on, and also expect to see a future upload of my video on Sunday, every Sunday. So please subscribe to my channel if you've not already done so that you stay up to date with future uploads. Thank you very much once again, and until next time, I'll see you later. God, it's not easy to explain.